Hey everybody, thanks for coming back to the channel, Hotchi Motchi. Today we're going to be opening up the conversation of the good, the bad, and the salty. Interactions, what is that? What do we think interactions are? What are fun interactions? What can lead to salty gameplay or what people would consider salty? And, some different perspectives on how we can, maneuver ourselves within that, right? So that way you don't end up just in a game with what we would call a punisher. So today, if we want to kick it off, we'll have... just talk a little bit about what we think an interaction is, and because we know everybody's got a little different idea of what that is, and so you kind of get a perspective of what we feel is a good interaction and what we even think it is to begin with. So, Gino, if you want to, kind of let people know, what do you feel is a good interaction that you like playing, and kind of what space you sit in.
I think it's important to play a lot of different interaction. So my decks will typically have some graveyard hate, some land removal. Definitely artifact and enchantment removal, creature removal, and then just straight up board wipes. Try to play a good balance with less board wipes because I don't think those are as fun to play.
Sure.
But definitely try to play more like 1-to-1 interaction or some like 3-for-1 interaction is my favorite. Is like a Grasp of Fate or something where you can get 3 permanents down for one spell.
Right.
Just trying to maximize the amount of value because I can't fill the deck with 40 removal spells. So it's like
can't you?
You could. Not with that. Yeah, just trying to get the most out of the spells I play, and a 3-for-1 is the best you can do,
Okay, all right. All right, Chris, are there any go-to interaction pieces for you, right? So it sounds like we'll kind of sit in the spacing of, removal, right, is kind of what we think of initially in interaction.
I use interaction more just to keep my powder dry is how I try to look at it. If I'm holding an interaction in my hand, I'm less inclined maybe for a big threat because I kind of want that threat maybe to do some damage to someone else on the board and kind of do my work for me. And I'm looking to just kind of keep me safe.
Okay.
I know that kind of, there's games you play where someone drops something crazy out and you're like, oh, I've got to take care of it right now. But I think I'm more inclined to just kind of sit back in the cut and let that happen and use my interaction to wait till it's focused on me.
I like this. We're kind of more like battle cruiser, like live and let live, right? You're going to let people do the stuff until it affects you, and then you're going to step in and try.
Like if someone throws a Blightsteel, I'm not immediately going to just Swords to Plowshare that. I'm going to, maybe it's going to go somewhere else.
That's not a conversation. There's 2 other people.
It's not a conversation.
Got direct traffic sometime,
I'm just saying, we've talked about it before. I'll let you know. It's not the best place to park your car. Is coming this way. Parking lot's closed. Or can be closed rather quickly. So maybe move it on over. So, but I think that's what I think of first when I think of interaction is what are those cards, spells, instant sorceries that I have that are going to keep me where I want to go. And less so much, it was really interesting when you brought up some of the things that we're going to talk about on board state and gameplay styles of being interaction, which I never really thought of it that way. And it's kind of an interesting way to look and to think of building in that arena of using board states as interaction to direct the game where you want it to go.
Likewise. Yeah. Like I didn't really think of like static effects as interaction, but it 100% is. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was blessed to really come into the game with a pot of people that were more in the style of, what you're saying, Chris, of live and kind of let live situation as far as interaction was happening. So it really allowed you to develop the things that you were doing to see when you had multiple things going on the board. And that's why the interaction on the board for me personally is like one of those things that I really enjoy doing outside of just politics and things like that, which we'll kind of get into as well. So the fun side of interaction, right, is kind of where we kind of all sit in our sweet spot. I know when we're all deck building that we're not, like I said earlier, just trying to punish someone out of the game, right? Building heavy stacks. So I guess we can kind of start with, how do we avoid that type of gameplay when we sit down in a pod, right? So
for me, it starts with threat assessment, right?
Okay.
If someone's having a tough time, they're missing land drops, maybe you cut them a little slack and you don't use interaction on them to let them kind of get to where the rest of the table is. If someone's super far ahead, I feel fine using interaction on that, right? Right. So a lot of it starts with me. For me, it starts with threat assessment of like, how am I going to use this? And if someone's super far behind, even if they put something good down, maybe you don't remove it. Let them play the game a little bit,
Yeah. So typically when I'm talking about using the threat assessment to find where that should be directed at, right? It's almost the untraditional way of how Magic operates, right? So when somebody's missing land drops, or somebody's not getting the colors that they need, or obviously they're just down cards, right? And they have to
flooding out. Yeah,
right.
But that's such a weird space, though, too, because I think we've all seen that happen and we've had that happen to ourselves. And I can remember games where it's like, oh, I'm not going to go after Chris because he's behind in colors, he's behind in land. And then it's like, you fix yourself, and then you just wreck everybody because the three other people...
you're just in the weeds until you find your spot. And then
three other people are just...
Yeah, right.
Mom and dad and grandpa are fighting, and then here comes you, and you're just been keeping it clean, and now you're ready to wreck house. So it's definitely a weird spot. So, I mean, it's tough to kind of say there's always the right answer to it, but it's about letting people play the game they want to play. Like, if you're just hating on everything they're trying to do, and especially when they have that rule 0 and it's like, my deck is trying to do this, and it's like, I refuse to let that happen and just use all your resources, like, that's not a fun game to me, I don't think.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, when I'm playing games that somebody's being left behind, right, that, in the beginning, because that's what ends up happening, right, that you have just one person just kind of sitting there. Nobody's really paying attention.
Right.
They missed a couple of land drops.
It's in the weeds.
Right. And then now all of a sudden they just like come out and just mollywop you from not being interacted with at all. Right. And so everything that I do with any type of interaction that is built into a deck has everything to do with the conversation throughout the whole game.
Sure.
Right. That some people don't like table talk. I'm a big fan of it. Right. Because it allows us to continually reassess what's happening.
Totally.
Right? That in every turn, the game has changed, right? And so the person that missed a couple of land drops actually has more cards than everyone.
Right.
Right? And so they're just sitting back and waiting to deploy. So, but if you are that person, right, that has been given the graces, right, that you've been tapped of like, hey, we're not going to do anything to what you have there, right? It creates a unique position for you to sit in and politic with people of like, hey, come on, like.
Right.
I've seen Karate Kid too many times, and it's just show him no mercy.
Yeah,
like I'm kidding. I wouldn't do
Sweep the leg, Johnny.
That's right.
So, are there any like go-to interaction cards that you build into your deck personally? Right. So would you guys want to talk more and like to give them more information about certain types? You guys want to kind of go. Like, here's removal, here's
I'll just
pieces.
say one of the things I do, and I don't know if you guys... I found this a little bit easier because of the amount of decks I build. I have a little box that I pull out of just Commander staple pieces.
Sure, I have that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Soul Rings are in there, Signets are in there, some of those rocks are in there. Decanter of Endless Water is a card I really love, I keep in there. But there's always Path to Exile. There's always Swords to Plowshare. There's always old 2-blue Counterspell. Mm-hmm. Some of those things are just always there, and if I'm playing those colors, I'm taking it and putting it in there. It's just, to me, it's part and parcel. It's if I'm playing white, Swords is in there. I mean, I don't think we're breaking ground here by saying it's the best removal spell in the game. 1 for an instant exile gets around so much.
It's hard to beat.
So those, to me, I think it's best. Obviously, there's better counter spells. I'm not trying to run out Forces of Will all the time. I don't have the money to keep that in my go-to box. But 2-blue counterspell, if I'm playing blue, it's going in. There'll be other counterspells, maybe some that are kind of more on theme. Arcane Denial, things like that if I'm looking for kind of those different payoffs, I'll run those. But at least for me, like I said, some of those interactions to me are just, they're who the color is, and if I'm playing the color, it's going to be in there.
Yeah, I'm a little different. So I don't have a box of go-to staples. I mean, outside of ramp, right? My ramp packages, whether it's in mono red all the way through mono green, pretty much has the same 10 to 15, right? So when I start getting into my more removal pieces, I don't die to graveyard.
Absolutely.
Right. So I guess I should say I do have a box, and has everything to do with I run no less than 4 pieces of graveyard hate in every deck.
I love that. I wish I can get to that point. I'm probably running 2 in every deck.
Okay.
I would say
I can't find that 3rd and 4th
I would say I'm probably at 2, and that's mainly because of you.
Okay. So I'll keep exuding why you die to graveyard much faster, because it, the true like delve, or the true delve decks, or like especially now that, lands have become so much more powerful, the land decks.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of them run a lot of synergy between their graveyards. And if anyone has ever been locked into a Glacial Chasm lock,
Oh, it's brutal.
it's brutal, right? But at some point, that land hits the graveyard, right? And so that's why I've just landed in enough positions to where 4 pieces, no less. But most of them are in land, right? That I will, run a Thespian stage, designed to copy like a Scavenger Grounds or something like that. So that way, it's very protected throughout the game, right? That they would have to use a very important piece of their mana base to get rid of it to then unlock it, right? And so it's really not meant to keep someone down from doing what they're doing. I will say when I play the card, like we can always have a conversation. My goal with this card is not to stop you from playing, right? Just from where I come from of play whatever you're playing, drop whatever you want into the graveyard.
Yeah.
But when you go to target something, we're going to have a conversation. So when the rest of it ends up going into other decks, then it has more to do with how the deck is being built.
Sure. I also don't see you play a lot of Static Hate. I don't see you playing a lot of Rest in Peace. And some of your decks have it, but mainly you're, like you said, you're more political with it, and you have it where people can still play the game.
Yeah.
And you're not just trying to straight lock out the graveyard deck, but you're just trying to protect yourself so you don't see these loops or someone playing Life from the Loam over and over and building all that value from it,
Yeah. I mean, we've all played, Reanimator strategies that we built and we played against it where you just end up with this like God hand, right? That just lets you discard a card on turn 1 or turn 2.
Yeah.
Right? You like Faithless looting a Valgavoth into your graveyard and you reanimate it on turn 2, right?
Yeah.
That is
pretty good stuff.
Who
would have done that ever?
Yeah. It just leads to why you should always have like a Soul Guide Lantern. Like so for me, the graveyard interaction holds a much higher priority than other single target.
Steve has been hurt, so
damaged. I'm a damaged being in the world. But when it comes to like single target removal, I kind of lean more into Gino's camp of it's more board wipe that I'm looking for because typically it's not. I can see something coming.
Yeah.
Right. Single target removal was great when I was building in my early years. Right. I would be able when somebody did something, I would need to respond to it instantly. Right. But after playing enough games, now you can kind of see what the strategy is trying to do that they're building.
Yeah.
More often than not, right? If you've had a good Rule 0 conversation, right? And then typically at that point you can kind of say, okay, this is like we're at the breaking point here, right? If you're not playing, a tier 3 or tier 4, or you're not playing, 8, 9, or 10, right? Then usually you see the tsunami coming.
Right, exactly.
So now are there any fun interaction cards that you guys like to play?
I mean, I think we can all agree there's one red one that we all like to play.
Yes.
We all have a story from it. Yeah. It's called
Chaos War.
That's it.
Chaos War.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've all seen the story where you flip over the same card and the whole table loves it. It's,
right.
It's a little gambling. It's fun. Yeah, I think that's one piece of interaction that's pretty unsalty, right? Like, it's a fun little
you lose
side
something,
game.
but you get something,
Absolutely.
and it could be the same damn thing.
Yeah, I love that one. I think that one's really fun.
Yeah, no one forgets when an Eldrazi gets flipped over on a Chaos War.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that just takes over the game. I don't know if there are any specifics outside. So the Chaos is really what... I'm glad that you brought up Chaos Warp, right? Because the fun interactions that we all remember are the chaotic ones.
Totally.
Right? However, a lot of decks that we see that we play up against a lot are building towards lowering the variance of what the deck is doing, right?
Sure.
So it kind of goes against the spirit of what was so fun in the memorable moments, right? And so I would say for, as you guys are building decks, that the things that you remember in the game, remember why they happened.
Totally.
Right? So that way, as you're starting to build these interactions with things, right? And so like for me, Mystic Barrier is one of them, right? It's a 4 and a white enchantment that says, when it comes into the battlefield, you're going to choose either left or right.
Yeah.
And people can only attack left or right. And in your upkeep, you can change that direction.
That's great. So if things change for you can change the direction. Yeah.
Right. So as we're constantly assessing the landscape of what's happening, or it opens up for the conversation with someone, right? That everything that I have done at this point in my deck building is meant for a conversation.
What happens when I get so angry I don't want to talk to you anymore? And that conversation goes out the window.
Yeah, you can always scoop.
Okay.
Yeah, you can always
Instant
scoop.
speed. Yeah.
Don't ever do that.
Don't ever do sorcery speed, but you can't.
Yeah, don't ever instant.
It's actually an interrupt. For the interrupts. Yeah.
One of the ones that I would say, speaking of something that's like fun in Chaos Warp that people don't get too salty, I feel like we've all had some salt to a Cyclonic Rift.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially a Cyc
the
Rift.
whole game building just to have it wiped away in a second.
When a Cyc Rift hits and then like you don't see that win coming anytime soon, so it was just that hard reset.
Yeah.
A card that I've started running and people don't get super salty about it and it's more fun is Aetherize.
Ooh, it's a good one.
Sure.
Return all attacking creatures, because then it's kind of one-sided.
Right.
And they kind of deserve it, right? They're going to try to
like swing it, and then it's like
you go somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, you hit it, and everyone's like, "Oh, like doesn't affect me. Like it's just you that got it." It may be anecdotal, but I looked at it because I played a game one time where I hit somebody with that, and then another player hit someone else with it, and then I don't remember the card, and it's not irrelevant to the story, but I was able to shuffle cards from my graveyard back into my library. And then shuffle the library, and I hit that Aetherize again. So the same person I hit the first time, he was like, "I'm coming back for more." And I was like, "Aetherize number 2." And so things like that are just kind of funny. Where I feel like if you Cyc Rift twice in a game, people would be like flipping tables like the salt's there, but. Aetherize too. It was funny at that point. I mean,
because it's only attacking creatures, right? So all your
other permanent,
you're
not. It's not a hard reset, and it's.
It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. And 2 players are unaffected, so it's like
it's a good interaction. Yeah. It's less feel bads. They're not going to get that hate from a Cyc Rift.
It's a great fog. Yeah, like you're fogging, right? That's all you're really doing when you play the Aetherize, right? That it's like, hey, fog you. Yeah. Right? Because even if you just play fog, right? Yeah. I'm laughing.
Yeah, I love fog.
If somebody else plays fog,
fog's great.
My cards are hitting the table and I'm laughing.
Especially if it's the card fog. There's so many fog effects.
Yeah, 100%.
Hit him with fog.
Hit me with the OG fog.
That's right. Yeah. That's great.
I will allow darkness as well.
Never see it coming.
That is. Yeah.
How about some Holy Day? You ever get Holy Day?
No.
That's interesting.
Single white. Yeah.
Is there a reason of why that you don't play those cards that fall outside of the color pie that do those things?
Oh, I do.
You play Darkness?
I got Darkness on a few decks. Absolutely.
Oh my god, I've never been hit by Darkness from
Darkness,
you.
I run Darkness as well.
I'm behind the ball here. I need to go buy some Darkness.
It's in my Lin deck, my Curses deck, because there's very little creatures, and that's just one way. I play Propaganda, I play Darkness, I play ways that disincentivize people from coming at me.
Okay.
So
Sure.
And I run Fog simply because of the pod I'm in. One of the
battle cruiser, just
one of the pods I play in. I've been hit way too many times with a Chroma's Will, and we talked about that yesterday. And it's an angel.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an Angels deck, and they're all flying, and they're all coming through, and they're all monsters. And then I was like, because of you, I pretty much put Soul Guide Lantern in every deck. And because of one of the guys in my other pod, I put Fog. If I'm running green or have room to get Darkness.
Meta builds, I like it. Yeah.
I'm putting it in there.
Conform to your meta, people.
You know what? Just so many times that one green mana saves the day.
But talking about Soul Guide Lantern, I like it because, like we talked about earlier, it can be a cantrip. So if nobody's playing any kind of graveyard strategy, still draws you a card.
Right.
So that one's awesome. And it doesn't feel bad putting it in your deck. Because at the very least, you're drawing a card from it.
Right, and sometimes it even works out to like an artifact count or something that you need that ends up hitting
Affinity,
it.
of course.
Right, that's just another permanent that's out there, right? So if you're playing anything that is counting your actual total permanent count to get you to something, that if you need like a City's Blessing or something like that, it works out really well there. So as far as fogs are concerned, I mean, shout out to the MTG Goldfish guys. I mean, it's really where I started really reevaluating some of the stuff that I'm doing with the fog and why am I running Teferi's Protection, because usually it's not for some combo kill that's happening, right? The pods that I play in really, if we're going to play a CDH game or something that gets, very close to it, usually there's other answers, right, that are happening.
So you're not dying from combat, those kind
right. Or something that I would not like to lose 22 life, right? Like the no thank you type of deal, right?
It's reasonable.
So the fog is equally as important as a swords or something like that, right? That it wouldn't necessitate me needing to kill the one creature to do something,
right?
Type of deal. So some other fun interactions that that I personally play in decks are the old specific color interactions.
Oh,
right?
I love that so much when I see your hate colors come down. Looks so good.
Right, like like a compost or something like that. That's probably something that a lot of people have recognized that it's only when black cards go in. So it could be a do nothing card, right?
Right.
Or it could be the best card or insight, right? Is 2 and 1 blue. Whenever a player casts a green spell, draw a card.
Sure.
Right.
Or even something like Carpet of Flowers, right?
Right.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it's too, to me, is the juice worse than the squeeze, because I've run Carpet of Flowers too many times and nobody's playing blue, and so you're like, sweet, I just have this completely dead card. It looks cool. I mean, what was it? Doctor Who had the Surge foiling on there.
Yeah, totally.
So it looks great. Pet it, give it a little rub.
Yeah.
It's looking good. Does nothing. Completely dead card. I'd trade it for a basic land. But I love that juice is worth the squeeze to you, because yes, I've seen you run some specific color hate or color benefit cards.
Yeah,
and when it pays off, it pays off. There's a reason they're there.
I really hope they start playing in that design space again. I mean, it doesn't need to be as punishing as it was with like Citadel of Pain, or like lands are getting sacrificed and stuff like that. The price of glory.
Right.
Right, yeah, Tsunami. Right, don't get me wrong, Tsunami, run it. Blue mages, don't counter me.
Well, as a Gruul player, I mean, blue is probably your hardest matchup. So when you run those things against blue, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, really in any creature-based strategy, a lot of the color hate cards work really well in what you're doing in the shell, right? And so, for example, I'm built a Bellow deck. And so now I'm going to run Monsoon in it, because I don't want people to be able to interact when they want to, right? But not in a way to where it's so oppressive that I'm locking you out with like a choke.
Right.
Right? That it's just saying that you're never going to untap. It's just, hey, at the end of your turn, if they're still untapped, can you please tap them for me?
And that's one of the cards I was talking about that is like a static ability that's interaction that I never really thought of until we talked about Monsoon, actually.
Yeah.
That it is, I feel like that is interaction,
Yeah. It leads to these like really interesting, because if, I know Chris and I were talking about it when we use interaction on specific cards that are on the table. I really enjoy building decks, and when I'm helping friends, just kind of evaluate the deck building ideas that they're coming up with, of having a card that would force someone to remove it versus the card that you never want them to remove. Right?
The bait, if you will.
Right,
yes. Take the bait.
Right. Yeah, I'm a huge catfisher, right? So as much chum as I can put into the water is the best. As much chicken liver that's in the water is the best for me. And so, like, as a blue mage or anyone that's running like Grixis or anything like that, usually blue is like the linchpin of what you're doing in the deck.
Sure.
And so you've got to get rid of this Monsoon and not Bellow.
Totally.
Right? Or I'm going to draw a card, because I'm going to hit the blue player with Monsoon, because it's only fitting. Right? So are there any cards that you guys put into your decks that are like give you a fun interaction like Monsoon, or create conversations that are like that?
Chris, I'll let you take it first. What do you got?
I don't know if I would necessarily say it's a color interaction like that, but a card I came across in a bulk box that I thought was neat, and now it is worth a couple bucks, is Breath Stealer's Crypt, black and blue.
I'm not familiar. What's that do? Oh, I think I do know this one. Is this when everyone draws a card, they reveal it, and if it's a creature, anybody can pay 3 life to make them discard it?
I don't think it's anybody. I think you have to do it. Okay. So let me...
I believe that's from Mirage. I want to say
it's from Visions.
Oh, Visions. Okay, I remember like the early days.
Whenever any player draws a card, he or she reveals that card. If the card is a creature card, that player plays 3 life or discards the card.
Oh, it's automatic. They have to pay 3 life every time they draw a creature.
So maybe not in the same vein as that color hate, but I feel like that's a static kind of interaction. We get to see what's in your hand.
Yeah, sure. You got every card everyone draws.
Everyone's drawn. Right. You get to see it kind of into that table talk and kind of conversations. Yeah. And if it's a creature, you got to pay the 3 life for it.
I mean, if you're not playing a creature strategy, then what do you care?
That's amazing, right?
Yeah, you're just drawing a free card that you have to reveal.
Wow, that's good stuff. That's good tech.
Yeah. So that I think that came around the same time as like Vile Consumption.
Okay.
Have you guys ever played with this card? It's a 3 mana Dimir enchantment that at the beginning of each player's upkeep, you have to pay 1 or sacrifice a creature. Or sacrifice that creature.
I don't think I've come across that one. I don't think so.
Yeah. I didn't think it was going to work as well. I built a Zerg deck the newser that allows you to be able to turn your non-creature enchantments into creatures.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was really,
sure.
I was really looking for like just off the wall like enchantments. I didn't want a huge stacks build. Turns out vial consumption if you're a creature deck stacksy.
At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature unless you pay 1. That's,
okay.
Yeah, and so it turned out.
I was going to say, that's almost Tabernacle. That's,
yeah, so it turned out to the Eldrazi player.
I'm going to move further away from you.
Yeah. He made a bunch of Scion tokens the turn before I played it, and he had to take 7.
Wow.
And then I cloned it, and the next turn took like 16 to keep his Eldrazi's around because he was playing Ulalek.
Okay.
And was trying to get the Scions for, copying Eldrazi effects. By the way, if you're copying Eldrazi effects, I didn't feel bad in that game for vial consumption.
Of course. Yeah,
but it has come out, right?
Yeah, sure.
It can lead
Slivers,
to
Eldrazi's.
Right.
Blight Steels. I feel like the Colossi is the flow. I feel like I've got a little lower on the empathy scale there. If you're trying to mess around with those abilities, then the vial consumption goes.
Yeah, so I really like that we all look at interaction outside of just like the normal, what's my full counterspell package, right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of what happens in Magic and in deck building and so, what we see in some of the content that gets created is very hyper-focused into the specifics of what each one you should be putting into your deck.
Right.
Versus, how do you want the deck to play when you're playing it, right? That, how are you going to feel about it? Like the vial consumption is a perfect example. I thought it was going to be great.
Yeah.
Right? As far as game winning, great. Right? But the rest of the table, real feel bad.
I was going to say, I feel
Real
like
salty.
that's almost, we should probably almost have another episode on that because there's so many times where I'm building a deck and I'm excited about it and I'm like, I'm going to put this in and this is going to be a cool interaction. And then you bring it to the table and you play it and you win and you're like, I'm going to go home and break it.
Just hit
Or
everything
even
with
worse,
salt blocks in
you
the
have it in your hand, you're I can't play this. Like at home I was brewing it, I'm so excited about it, I can't play this.